The Brewers have used 17 starting pitchers so far this year, and I know this is big news, but you don't need 17 starting pitchers in the postseason. So who might be the 3, 4, or 5 starters that they would use if the postseason started tomorrow? If it did start tomorrow, the Brewers would win the NL Central. They would be the 3 seed, but they're quite close to the 2 and the 1 seed. In fact, they're closer to the 1 seed in the NL right now than they are to second place in the NL Central. So it's a helpful exercise because the Brewers are probably going to be in the postseason. So who are some of the options that the Brewers have to start out of the 17 that they've used? They have Freddie Peralta, who's been one of their best starters this year, but he's been pretty inconsistent. Has a high 3s ERAs, big strikeout guy, a lot of walks, a lot of home runs. We've all seen Freddie Peralta for 5 or 6 years. There's Colin Ray, who's been as steady as anyone in the rotation. He's top 10 in the NL right now in wins and ERA. There's Aaron Civale, who they acquired from Tampa Bay earlier this summer, and he's someone who had a very good year last year. This year has not gone as much his way, but still a solid starter with some postseason experience. Frankie Montas also has postseason experience, and the Brewers acquired him recently, another starter who's kind of in that caliber, similar to Aaron Civale. There's Tobias Myers, who's been the breakout arm of the rotation so far this year, in addition to Colin Ray. But Myers bursting onto the scene this year. He had never been in the majors before. And then there's some other secondary options, your Joe Ross, your DL Hall, Bryce Wilson, maybe a bullpen game, some of the other options. So which route should the Brewers go with the starters? Freddie Peralta's been inconsistent, but he also has the ability to dominate a lineup like nobody else in the rotation. He's someone that has postseason experience. In 2021, he pitched really well in his postseason start before getting pulled for a pinch hitter, an issue that the Brewers won't have this year with the DH being in the NL full-time. Colin Ray is someone who actually typically struggles earlier in his starts and then kind of rights the ship as the game goes on. That could be a concern because you don't need as many innings out of starters in the playoffs. So maybe the Brewers think that that's something that they should try to get the guy who will go out there and be better first time through. Aaron Civale and Frankie Montas are both guys that are significantly better first time through the order. Tobias Myers has been probably their best starter so far, but he hasn't pitched as much, and I think we'll see what happens throughout the year. So if I were to arrange the rotation, let's say the Brewers have a 5-game series in the NLDS, I would start with Colin Ray. I think Colin Ray has been the Brewers' best arm for the longest period of time this year. He's proven that he's can face good lineups. He's proven that he can give you length if needed, which in game 1 is more important, where you're not pitching in front of a day off. You need a little bit more length. It's a best of 5 series, so you know you're playing at least a couple more games. So I think Colin Ray would give you the best chance to win. Now, I would consider using an opener because he has struggled first time through the order. And when he's pitched as an opener, he hasn't had the same struggles. It's a small sample size. They've only opened for him 3 times this year. But I think it'd be worth considering, especially if you face a lineup with some lefties at the top, like the Phillies. I don't know that they would face him in the first round, but maybe in the NLDS they would. If they're the 2 and the 3 seeds, you get Schwarber, Harper, and some of the other lefties at the top. Maybe you start Jared Koenig or Hobie Milner instead of Colin Ray. I'm still going Colin Ray in game 1. Game 2, I would go Freddie Peralta because, as I mentioned earlier, he has the ability to dominate a lineup like no one else does in this rotation. And I think when you take that into account, yeah, maybe he's a little bit inconsistent, but you throw him in game 2, you've got a day off coming up heading into the next game. And so I think it allows the bullpen to be a little bit more rested. You can be a little bit more liberal with your bullpen use. So if Freddie struggles out of the gate, you can stomach it a little bit more. Game 3, I would go with the Civale and Montas piggyback. They're both guys who have been very good first time through the order this year, but they've struggled second and third times through. You don't need as much length from them, especially if you're coming off the day off. And I would go Tobias Myers game 4, assuming he continues this run. And I would kind of save him because I'm still a little bit more hesitant to start the unproven rookie as early. I would start Civale and Montas in game 3 because it potentially allows them to be available for game 5 if needed. Whereas Myers, you're probably not going to use him in game 5 anyways. The Brewers don't need to use their starting rotation a ton in the postseason because assuming they get there, they only really need about 4 innings to start because they have maybe the best bullpen in baseball. We'll go through all the guys, and I will do that in another video. But the Brewers have an excellent bullpen that could stomach some short starts, even if it is maybe 4 innings, no runs, 4 innings, 1 run. Maybe you pull them and you move on to a Brian Hudson, a Jared Koenig, or a Trevor McGill. So the Brewers are in a good spot with their pitching. I think a better spot than most people realize. Just the starting rotation is a little bit in a state of flux, but they do have good options. They're just maybe not the options of 2021 or 2023 when they had Corbin Burns, Freddie Peralta, Brandon Woodruff, and some guys to take the ball. So if I were to organize the Brewers rotation, I think I'd go Colin Ray, Freddie Peralta, Savali Montas, piggyback, and then Tobias Myers. But let us know what you think in the comments, because I'm curious what other Brewers fans think about the Brewers pitching rotation and whether they have enough to make a deep postseason run.